Hello, everyone. Welcome back to this episode of Just Another Year Chicago. My name is Nick Brody. I am solo today, but I am bringing you today the first day or the second day, technically, of the NFL draft recap for the Chicago Bears as they bring in three new players, bringing in Kyler Gordon, Jaquan Brisker, and Velus Jones Jr. Welcome, everybody, to Just Another Year Chicago. I apologize. I'm a little hungover today because I was not only celebrating about the Chicago Bears' future. I think Ryan Poles did a fantastic job, and let me explain why in a minute. But also, it was a friend's birthday, so apologize if I don't sound entirely the greatest. But hey, it's a good day. A little bit of green tea, a little bit of Bears new players can bring anybody back to life. So Ryan Poles and company did their homework last night. They knew who they wanted. They talked to Justin Fields and other players and who they wanted, and they saw who was on the board still and got their guys. In my opinion, I think they did a great job because they had everyone involved. They did their homework, and they addressed three key areas of need, or three positions of need, and a few key areas, and a lot that we've talked about over the time. No one we talked about in our mock drafts. We were very lineman and wide receiver heavy, but hey, we did get one wide receiver, and we definitely have a secondary now. So before we jump into the three newest Chicago Bears, we'd like to thank today's sponsor of this episode, DraftKings Sportsbook. Basketball playoffs mean next level basketball. Get in on the playoff action with DraftKings Sportsbook. This week, new customers can bet $5 on any team to win and get $150 in free bets instantly. You win no matter what. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use promo code JAY Chicago. That is J Chicago. Bet $5 on any basketball team to win their game during the playoffs and get $150 in free bets instantly. That's promo code JAY Chicago at DraftKings Sportsbook. All right, everybody, even though the Bulls aren't in the playoffs anymore, make sure you go and use that DraftKings Sportsbook to get your deal today. Let's start off with the first pick of the Bears in the second round, pick number 39. The Chicago Bears selected Kyler Gordon, cornerback from Washington. Man, I was like a little taken back by this one at first because I was like, who? And then I'm sitting at dinner and I'm like, okay, we got the guy an absolute steal, in my opinion, in a very heavy cornerback class. This is kind of like a Jalen Johnson situation where he dropped a little bit, not because of injury, because of the fact that there's so many talented guys. This guy would have been a first rounder, in my opinion, in other drafts for the cornerback position. But hey, the Bears got him. I'm not complaining about it. So let's talk a little bit about him. 5'11", 194 pounds as a senior. He was a beast. I mean, hey, 5'11", he's not one of those guys that said, hey, I'm 5'11", but really he's 5'8". No, he is 5'11", and he is massive. He is a very strong guy, kind of built like some of the bigger, heavier hitting corners that you've seen over the years. Kind of like a Mike Brown, let's say. Like absolutely ripped, big dude, and he's a lockdown corner. He has not given up a touchdown in his direction in the last 2 seasons of his college career. So that's obviously a plus, especially after the difficulties the Bears had last year. He has worked with top NFL defensive talent over the last couple of years. Going to Washington, not too far from Seattle. He had the opportunity to work with Bobby Wagner, Richard Sherman, some of the big names that was on that Seattle defense for all those great years. Unfortunately, it kind of fell apart because they're rebuilding. But hey, just because they're getting older doesn't mean that they're not able to play football anymore. Absolutely athletic freak, according to reports. And if you watch film on this guy, we cannot share film due to not owning the rights to it. But anyway, absolute athletic freak. Built like a tank. Like I was saying, he's literally all muscle. Look at the freaking thumbnail on this video. I mean, his biceps are as big as my head. Very, very strong guy. He ran a 4.5240, which, okay, not great, not horrible. But at the same time, you got to understand that he is farther back than any fast wide receiver. He has a head start on them, and he has very good top end speed. So he's kind of like a muscle car, kind of gets his wheels going. And then once he's gone, he's gone. So I am very excited about this pick. And also, he was a leader in the Washington secondary during college. He wanted to become better. That's why he was working with some of these great defensive players. And he was doing it every day he could. He's very excited to play in Chicago. He seemed very hyped walking up to the stand. Big smile. He couldn't stop smiling like a little kid on Christmas. So definitely excited about that. There's not really too many cons to this guy. He's undersized, I guess, because, Tony and I have been saying that we wanted a bigger cornerback. But we got that in our next pick, which we'll get to in a second. But his athletic ability makes up for size. And again, heart over height. This guy is an absolute beast. He's not a small guy either by any means. He is prone to missing tackles, though, and as long as he doesn't go to Eddie Jackson School of Tackling and goes to Alan Williams School of Tackling, the Bears' new defensive coordinator, I think they'll be just fine. So overall, super excited about this guy. Great pairing with Jalen Johnson. I think he'll be a starter out of the gate, especially with some of the difficulties we've had over the last couple of years. The Bears secondary was one of three key areas of need from the Just Another Year crew, and Ryan Poles definitely addressed that with the first pick of last night's draft. Let's stay in the second round. We're going to the 48th pick that we got from the LA Chargers. Jaquan Brisker, safety from Penn State, standing at 6'1", 200 pounds. That's the size I was talking about for you guys. This is honestly my favorite pick yesterday. He was a steal. The last time we took a guy from Penn State and was a safety, paired him with Eddie Jackson. That guy's name was Adrian Amos, and the Bears secondary was unstoppable during those years before he went to the bad guys up north. But again, my favorite pick yesterday because he's a large defensive back. He shows that he has the ability of a big hitting safety as well as alongside Gordon. So the Bears defensive secondary just got real mean real quick and definitely addressed the area of, beating up on guys legally, because football, you're legally able to hit somebody. But he shows that his ability of a big hitting safety, kind of something like that Tyrann Mathieu was, we wanted us to sign him, but, we get a player like him for much cheaper. And also, it's always good when you have a guy that's drafted to your team. He always has that in your heart. Like, hey, you took a chance on me. I love this pick in the second round. And second round talent is no joke. I mean, you are a very good football player. So in 34 games at Penn State, he started 21 of them. He had 100. And again, in 34 games, he had 153 total tackles, 86 of them being solo. So over half of them being solo. He had 9.5 tackles for loss, 5.5 coming last year. And he's the first Penn State quarter since 2000 to have that many, or a defensive back, excuse me. He had 5 interceptions in college, 14 pass deflections, and 1 forced fumble. He's also a speedster with a 4.45 40. So he's able to cover guys that are downfield in case, and anyone gets past, our first line of defense. He's back there. So love the pick. Think it's great for the Chicago Bears. Definitely the secondary is locked up and looking good for next season. Let's go into the third pick of last night in the third round, pick number 71, Velus Jones Jr., wide receiver from Tennessee. Now, Bears Twitter was not happy about this pick at first. I love the pick. I think it's a fantastic pick. Why? Because Justin Fields wanted this guy, not his athletic ability. Justin Fields sat with Ryan Poles and went through hundreds, according to reports, hundreds of prospects, whether that be running backs, wide receivers, tight ends, offensive linemen. They went through it all together because this is Justin Fields' team. And Justin Fields said, I want that guy. Ryan Poles saw he was available, went out and got him. Unfortunately, Pierce, Sky Moore, George Pickens, all gone within like 6 picks after the Bears' last pick. So, this guy's a speedster. Absolute speedster. You want speed? This guy brings it. 4.31 40 time. And if you watch it, if they gave him another 100 yards, he would be, from Indianapolis, he'd be already in Miami. That's how fast he is. Justin Fields, again, wanted this guy. That's a huge boost for Ryan Poles in my book, because Ryan Poles said, hey, I like this guy. And Justin Fields said, hey, I like that guy. Let's go get him. Let's make him a Chicago Bear and have some true speed at the wide receiver position. But also what's great about him is that he's actually a kick return and punt return specialist, something the Bears have been looking for ever since Cordero Patterson had left. It kind of gives a Devin Hester vibe. He's a little bit bigger than Hester size-wise, being 6'4", 204, or 600, 204. Wish he was 6'4". That would have been great. But he was a specialist in college, Devin Hester type vibe, a little bit bigger. And I like this pick a lot. And he's got crazy moves. I mean, you go and look at when they did joint practices with Georgia or during the Senior Bowl. This guy was one of the favorite Senior Bowl wide receivers. He was breaking ankles. He was getting around guys, great hands too. Overall, a great wide receiver, and he's pretty big too. So his speed and size help him. But here's his con, and this is why Bears Twitter is freaking out about it, which, guys, I get it, but he's 25, and I'm 25. So am I old? Like, no. And in the NFL, I get it. You want to get a guy who's 21 because you get 4 more years out of him, but he still has 5 to 7 good years in him, and the Bears in that time can win 2 Super Bowls in theory, if the Bears are good. So, 5 to 7 good years out of him. Everyone needs to kind of slow down, pump the brakes a little bit. Be excited that this guy's a Chicago Bear. I mean, Justin Fields wanted him. Just put that out there. So no one judge him until he walks onto the NFL field. But overall, those are the 3 picks from day 1 for the Chicago Bears, day 2 of the NFL draft. Chicago Bears have 3 more selections today. We will have another video out tomorrow, if not Monday, giving a full recap. And then we will have a full recap video with Tony, because we got to have Tony in there. So with that, thank you very much for joining this Saturday's episode of Just Another Year Chicago. We don't do that often. Again, why I'm hungover. Got my little green tea, good to go. But thank you very much for joining me this morning. Or if you're watching in the afternoon, happy afternoon to you. But thank you very much for joining. We hope to see you guys soon, and have a great day, Chicago.